Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Pelican, built tough for all situations. Go to pelican.com. Yak Gadget, for all your fine kayak fishing accessory needs. Go to yakgadget.com. Eastport Marina, on the beautiful shores of Dale Hollow Lake. For all your lodging, kayaking, and fishing needs, go to eastport.info. Now let's get this show started.
What's up, guys? You're listening to the final cast on the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. I'm Brad.
I'm Matt.
What's up, Matt? How you doing?
Oh, dude, it's been a day. It's another one of those days. Last show, I'm pretty sure I started with this too. It's another one of those days, but I've been looking forward to this. It's made the poo day worth it.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little under the weather right now. I took a corona test and it didn't come positive, so that's good. But yeah,
it's the monkeypox.
Well, I'm not gonna sit here and like dabble and talk our heads off before we start the show, so I'm just gonna get right into it, man. We're gonna have Drew Gregory on the show to talk about the new Crescent Shoalie from the very start of the project to the very finish, and we're gonna talk about some features too, I'm sure. So, Drew, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? I'm excited to be here and kind of like you, Brad, a little bit under the weather. Voice is kind of scratchy. I took the test, same as you, came back negative, but I think mine just has to do with a little bit of exhaustion from I haven't really stopped since I won that tournament on Lewis Smith Lake for Bassmaster, straight over to Georgia for the release of the Shoalie with Crescent. We had a big party and our families were over there and friends. It was a good time. And then, of course, all the questions I've been answering and talking about this kayak, it's definitely seems like it's been a hit with the public too. So we always felt it was and would be, but it seems like it's, the first reviews I've seen from just general overall consumers not affiliated with the brand have been, really awesome. So I'm just excited to see all that and been fun, man. I can't complain. Answering a lot of questions for a good reason,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine the amount of questions you're answering because on one of your last posts, you're trying to mow your yard and you said, "Hey, everybody, I'll get to the questions. I have to mow my grass."
It's true, dude. It looks amazing right now. I actually was triple cut that yard, man. It's like triple cut, weed eated today. I mean, I took a little pride in that project today. Listen to some podcasts. Sometimes that's a good time to listen to some Paddle and Fin, some other good podcasts I listen to. But yeah, I got the tea going, and I'm gonna give you guys the first. This is the first really podcast on the full rundown on this boat. Anything you want to ask now that it's public and it's open, it's all just free game. Last time we were on the show, we couldn't really talk a lot about it, but we hinted at a couple things and then said, "Hey, I'll come back on when it comes out." So pretty cool.
Heck yeah, I've been waiting on it for a while, so this is gonna be a fun show. But
oh yeah, it's been a countdown since the Columbus show.
Yep.
Just been sitting here waiting.
Yeah.
Me and Brad will talk about it randomly and be like, "Dude, I can't wait till we can actually talk about this."
You're probably like, "Dude, do you think on April 1st they're just gonna have this big thing that comes out and they're like, April Fools? We never
That
we're
would
gonna
suck.
do a kayak big joke on you guys."
that
That would have sucked. Yeah.
Well, I think the first question I have, man, is everybody knows you had a hand in the Kusa HD and designing that, and then also now the Shoalie. How do you they kind of seem similar to me, but a lot different with features. But the way they paddle, they feel similar. So is that something you guys were aiming towards?
Well, in my mind, so back to kind of even back it up even further, I was the first fishing, person over there at Jackson that's kind of headed that side of the brand. And like we've talked about before, I mean, great folks over there. We had an awesome 10-year run. That's a long time with one company and to do so many successful things we were able to do. That's pretty cool. And the original Kusa, you mentioned the Kusa HD, but the Kusa was my design originally. And that's why it was my signature series model, designed all that in terms of the features. When I say design, I'm not saying I'm an engineer. I'm an architect that actually shapes it. I'm designing the things that we're talking about here that we really care about, the fishing features. And so the deck basically, in the whole, I'm just kind of explaining, hey, this is what I want it to do. Here's some boats this is kind of with Crescent too, with anybody. Here's some boats that I like this, length and width and this whole shape and how this boat paddles. You have just to have somewhere to start, when designing your hole, you need something to base it off of. So to kind of to your question, yeah, so I did the Coosa, and then I did the Cuda 12, Cuda 14 with Jackson, the big tuna, designed all those. I think the big rig was maybe the last one I had some real like hand in over there. And then of course the cruise, models from Jackson and some other boats they're all kind of derivatives, because the high-low seat, I mean, you can go back, people can go look at the patent if you want, but I'm on the patent for the high-low seating over there with Jackson, just because that was my idea, and the other guys, Tony and I think Scott, who are on there, they were the talent that kind of put it all together, how it was going to work, how it was going to look, and all that. So that's why the three of us are on that patent. But anyway, you always have to have something to compare any boat to. So what I kind of liked the link for me personally, the Coosa, going back to that boat, is more like the perfect. I think it's like 11.3. So like that's more the perfect length for me. Maybe even something like, honestly, 10'10", and instead of 11.3, like almost take 5-6 inches even more off of it for me personally. But I'm only, first of all, I'm super experienced. So the more experienced you are, the smaller boat you can feel comfortable in, paddling and standing. That's just a fact. It's like riding a bike. You start with the training wheels and you don't feel stable, and then a few weeks later or whatever, months later, next thing you know, you're jumping off curbs, going crazy, flying around like this is awesome. And you just continually get better and better, right? So extrapolate that out 10, 15 years, right?
Yeah.
So the more I can do, I can do a little bit more than most people probably can in a smaller craft. So to me, I wasn't designing this boat, and I didn't design the Coosa HD for me, Drew Gregory, who is 5'8", 170 pounds. You know what I mean? I designed it for the majority of the people because, it's got a 450-pound weight capacity. So anyway, what I decided to do was, I think I can make a boat that is just as stable, virtually just as stable, not even like negligible, or you couldn't notice it probably even, and tracks just as good and has great maneuverability for moving water. But I think I can do it a little bit lighter weight, a little bit, shorter and lighter weight, which makes it now like more manageable for people as I got older. As I'm getting older, it's becoming more and more important to me, which is why I love that Crescent Ultralight so much. At 49 pounds, I can toss it in the back of my truck so easy, in and out of places when I'm running and gunning, sort of. But I just wanted to do it at get it under this. I was really shooting for more like 70 to 75 pounds, but I think we're molding them. I think the total weight with everything is like 77, but that's still really good compared to the weights of a lot of the other boats that we're comparing it to. I think we're still like way lighter because we're shorter. That's always going to be lighter. We're shorter, and probably not as wide as some of the other ones out there we're comparing it to. So again, you take that overall spec, and you can typically get a little bit less plastic, which is your shot weight, that original weight, before you add on the seat. So I wanted to make it manageable so people are excited about it to go out in it, to take it out, and they don't think when they're Friday at 3:00 at work and they're thinking about their weekend, they're not like, oh man, I'd love to go kayak fishing, but dude, that thing is so heavy, or it's a pain to, that's not why we, have you? Yeah. I mean, I didn't know if that's like a reality or not, but I feel like it's gotta be for a lot of people. It's like, I'm excited to take, the little boats out there and go explore new and wild places. But anyway, that's kind of how we ended up. That's kind of how I ended up at that length. I feel like it sort of fits between, those two models with Jackson in terms of the length, but it offers, real good stability, maneuverability, overall total capacity is right there where, 450 pounds, good Lord, who, even if you're 300 pounds, that's, which, quite a few folks are, especially in the hunting and fishing world, you still have a lot of room, to add gear and whatnot. And that's just, while we're talking about that, I will say this, it's an arbitrary designation that kayak manufacturers put onto kayaks. There's no FDA, there's nobody regulating anything we're doing, honestly. But that's just where we feel like the performance will start to decline, right? At that level, so that's just what we recommend. Is it, if you get to 451, does it all of a sudden just sink to the bottom like a rock? No, of course not. And if it's too light, it definitely rides a little higher and performs differently than if it's sunk down to 400 pounds. But
Yep.
anyway, yeah, that was kind of that sweet spot I wanted to hit with that length and width and weight and all that stuff. And then, after this one, now we can sort of decide where to go next. We got room up, we got room down, right? That was part of the decision too. You got to make, if your first boat's going to hit the middle of that bell curve, well, you want to make sure there's a lot of the middle of the bell curve. It's not like it's just one exact, length at 12 foot even. Of course not. There's a lot of them. I'd say most of that middle of the bell curve, which is where most kayaks are sold, is probably 11.5 to, like 12.5 if you're really narrowing it down, or 11 foot to 13 foot if you want to get a little wider with it. But maybe even 13.5 or 14, because the Hobie PAs and some other ones are pretty long. Yeah. If you're really considering, I guess I was thinking in my head paddling fishing kayaks, but if you count the pedals, it extends further. So now we have room to go down if we want to go down without making a boat that's basically a kid's boat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have room to go up, because this boat was 11.10, so if we went up to 13.10 or 13.5 and get up there, and that. So who knows? But when we figure it out and do another one, I'm sure you guys will be one of the first ones to know.
That's the other thing. Go ahead.
I was about to say, that's the only thing I require. Is once we figure it out, just feed us little pieces.
Yeah, there you go. Little teasers.
I think that's what makes it also more exciting. We're also looking forward to more stuff from you guys coming out. See what more you guys can do to a kayak, which is pretty cool.
For sure. And there's a lot to be done. We got this one out quick. I'm not going to get into the whole long detailed story, but it came out a lot later than we wanted it to. But God's timing is perfect, man, because, I mean, we had a big gap in our manufacturing, had to move. We don't mold our own kayaks at Crescent because the factory burned down. And maybe people have heard that story. Maybe they haven't. You can go on YouTube and watch the video. About 4 years ago now, the factory burned down when I wasn't even with Crescent. So they had to start outsourcing their molding, and we had to move locations for some of our all of our molds, but some are in different locations now, different factories. But that took a long time. Like that's basically moving your whole company. Like, oh man. And then getting it all dialed in with those new rotomolders is not easy at all, because rotomolding is not easy, and every product's a little bit different. So James, Durbecker over there at Crescent, he's the owner. He helps design things. He does everything. I mean, he'll be nitpicking about some little word, three words in a sentence on the website. I mean, with our marketing director, Justin, he does everything. So he's not just an owner that's just fictional up there in the sky. When you guys see James on the walkthrough video, he's the one who I work with every day to design this thing. And he's the one who, I can tell him all the cool, all the cool like ideas and stuff. But if they don't look kind of sexy on a kayak, it just doesn't work. You can need both. You do need that visual appeal, but you need the function of the actual features too. So he helped me get all that into place. So that's just kind of who he is. But basically, and he also, obviously he grew up, if you didn't hear the story, you have never heard the story, he grew up basically in a rotomolding family. His dad was a rotomolder. So he knows a lot about rotomolding, sometimes more than the people who were doing the rotomolding, because he's just grew up with it, So, and he also knows a really good, a lot about hull design. So that's kind of his role in this thing. But anyway, he also has to run the entire business and set up the manufacturing and secure everything. We moved into a new facility. He found an amazing deal on a new building that's like 10 acres of property, brand new building for us. Used to be like a small business incubator government facility. So it's really nice, tons of room for us to grow. In the middle of all this, he's also buying that and dealing with that. So the moving our whole company to different molders, right? Buying a new factory facility, it kind of made sense for us to hold this right now, because we got to get that stuff dialed in and get the rest of our molds up and going. So there is a company still making money.
Yeah.
Okay. So that delayed it all. So that's the quickest way to explain all that. And you can't just go and tell people, the public's like, where is this boat? Where is it? People are kind of, always hitting me up like about it. You guys, everybody, they want to know, but you can't explain all that very quickly and easily. So that's kind of how it went down. And then now we're obviously in that new facility and rocking and rolling. But anyway, I don't know where that question started off at, but that was the guy I forgot.
It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You that's a good segue though. You mentioned hull design, and I was going to hit on that before everything. How did you guys come to the conclusion of the shape of the hull, and like what does your team consist of? Like how many people?
Oh man, it's just James and I, dude.
Oh, really?
Nice.
I didn't know if there was like multiple
No.
people helping in the design process or what.
James and I designed this thing, or just him and I. The only other people we do, like I just have friends that I'll throw stuff out. I mean, Scott Butcher works there, and it's got a long time history in this sport and this industry. So we'll bounce things off him. But this is definitely more. I mean, he uses that crew as a solo, and he puts the torpedo on it. He's a different angler than I am. So, I mean, I kind of had all the experience necessary for this one and this hole and what I wanted it to do. And James helped me kind of get there. What we did basically is we wanted to take off that more pronounced keel that goes all the way down the crescents on the other boats, like CK1 and the ultralight, the light tackle. If you'll notice, if you get on a river situation, you get somewhere shallow, or you get on a rock and it hits right in the middle there, you're kind of wobble on that one rock. Now it's also it can be a positive, like in the ultralight. I know that little teeny thing, that little part comes down, right? And that's helping. It's helping you put your paddling. It's helping your tracking. So it's not like it's a bad thing, all right? Because every hole is designed for something different. So those are more like all around holes. So they work great in the river, and I used mine in the river obviously a lot. I won 2 tournaments out of that ultralight. One was on the lake and one was in a river or creek. But the point is, I got to the point where I could take that little teeny, like 10 inches on the bottom, that keel that sticks down a little bit lower, and I could find gaps in between rocks that were just that width, and I can just paddle because the rest of the sides, when it comes, boy, I sure hope people watch this on YouTube. This is going to be hard for you guys on the podcast. But when you imagine the bottom is like this, and it goes up a little bit, and then you got these wings almost on the side, the side little parts of it. Okay, those are floating up. That's drafting way higher than any other kayak can draft, because you've got that main part in the middle that's really carrying it. So yeah, that's a little deeper in the middle. But if you find a little chute between 2 rocks, it's just that wide, like a foot, you can shoot right through it. Even if the rocks on the side are just a 2 inches, 2-3 inches out of the water, or under the water, I should say. So there's some positives to that. But anyway, we wanted to make this hole flatter, because that's a little bit better in the river, in my opinion, because water is going to slide when you're ferrying and you're eddying. Water will kind of just slide. It's not going to hit anything, right? It's just going to slide. So when you get turned perpendicular in the river, not parallel with it, and you've got current pushing it, it's not really just pushing you as fast. It's kind of sliding. And if you lean a little bit, obviously you're going to allow it to slide under, which is what you're supposed to do. If you get perpendicular in the river, you always really want to lean downstream. If you notice whitewater kayakers, they're heavily leaning downstream because they're in very swift water, but it's very pronounced. Is because they don't want a lot of the water friction to be hitting the hole. That's less hole if they're on their sides. It's just less hole it's actually hitting. It's just kind of sliding underneath. Where if they were on this side, that all the water's pushing it, and you just get pushed downstream quicker. So with a lot more power and force. So we wanted it to be flat for that reason. I also think that's nice because not one spot on the hole gets the majority of all the hits, right? The brunt of all the hits. So that's why we came up with that. And then we wanted to keep the crescent, the true crescent sort of, there's 3, on all the other crescents, there's still 3 like channels. The one channel is scuppers in the center, which is different than other kayaks. We just have one center. I mean, there's other kayaks that do the same, but a lot of them have like 2 channels, but we like the water to drain to the middle and just go down the scuppers. And the other 2 channels have what we call kiss-offs, which are little towers in there like scuppers, but they're not completely through, and they actually sort of just hit each other inside there. So it gives you strength. That's why Brad, we haven't really talked about this. I know you've got one. So when you stand on it, which I guess if you haven't been on the water yet, I don't know, because it was, muddy, but you probably stood on it in your, even if you stood on the shop, you see like there's no flex in that hole because we've got those kiss-offs on the other channel. So it still looks like a crescent on the underside when you look at it. And we got the transducer scupper in there as well. But it still holds true and looks very much like a crescent, but with a really good whole design for rivers. And I've been shocked to hear people say, because those 3 channels there's enough, depth in those channels. Like they're not sticking down to like, there's no part of the kayak that's sticking down for water to hit it on the side, but up a little bit in those channels, it's holding that water in and it's tracking really good. I mean, everyone loves the way it tracks. They're surprised at how well it's working on flat water. And we wanted it to be obviously we wanted to work on both situations, but I would say the priority was always going to be moving water with it. So the fact that we were getting such a good response for the flat water, and especially now that people are putting motors on these things, and that really kind of really nullifies the, how well does it track? Well, with my XI5,
it tracks super straight.
Yeah, it tracks great. So anyway, that's kind of the deal in the hole, and that's James's baby, the whole of that thing, really. I mean, I just kind of helped him with, here's several designs that I like and some things I liked about them. Kind of like we did with any boat I've ever designed. We take other boats and compare, including the Crescent models. So yeah, man, it's exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I had mine out on flat water actually yesterday. I went out for 3 hours and paddled around. That thing paddles like a dream. It is fast too. Like I can paddle that thing 3-4 miles an hour like effortlessly.
That's the first thing he texts me. I'm like, hey man, how did the Shoalie do? He's word for word. This thing paddles awesome and it's fast. And he told me 3.5 to 4 miles an hour. And I was like, dude, there's no way. And he's like, yeah, it's just effortless. If I really pushed, I could probably touch 4.5. I was like, well, all right. Well, you're keeping up with my XI3 with all my stuff now. So
yeah. Dude, I'm shocked. I mean, that's probably been one of the biggest surprises for me. I mean, obviously I've been in the kayak, I paddled it, but I'm not even like concerned about the speed much on kayaks because when I make them, design them and make them light enough to access it anywhere I want to access that's public or whatever, it allows me to get to places that other people have to paddle to. You know what I mean? And I think like tournaments. So, and even if I'm not in a tournament, I still want to fish in wild places where other people can't get to, which means far away from the ramps, right? The easy places.
Yep.
So to me, I don't think about speed much. And the other reason why is because I fish so many rivers. I don't really care about speed that much. I want to float. This is a boat that I'm going to be taking on the river, point A to point B, most likely. I mean, I'll do some paddle up trips. And obviously it sounds like it's going to be great for that. But, I would just I'm more concerned about the maneuverability in the river, those downstream trips, avoiding logs and rocks and things like that, and being able to spin on a dime like a little sports car. And it does that really well too. So that's cool, man. I'm glad to hear that your first impression was it's speedy. So I think it's going to be a better flat water boat. And probably sell a little bit more for that sole purpose than I ever thought we would.
Yeah. And I know other people, like I've seen people in the group chat, I'm going to use this on the lake and stuff. I'm using it on the lake as well. I'm going to use it river and lake. I plan to put on a Newport for the river. So that's going to be perfect, nice. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I didn't finish that one question. So we have a quote unquote team. We do have like some guys that it's not an official team, but maybe we'll have an official team at some point, just a few people, but we do. And I do consult, various people, especially on some upcoming designs. If I'm not designing something that's like 100% like in my wheelhouse, but I don't know, I guess I feel like now with longer boats I've been in and I don't know, we've got the crew and I've been in that one and I think I've got a good handle. I mean, I've been in the sport long enough, but anyway, it's not always just going to be, just James and I like this one was, but I'm always going to take in others' input. But at some point, if you get too much input, it's like the whole thing with too many, chiefs or not enough Indians or whatever it is, the whole saying.
Too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of have to just realize that, I mean, if James has done so many kayaks on his own, I've done so many kayaks, design them. It's like, and you're getting, certainly it helps to get input from others, but if you're getting input from a lot of people and they aren't as like well-versed and paddle as many different kayaks and design all these, it's like, how much do you weigh that input? You know what I mean? Like, because they don't all have the same context. So it's challenging, but we feel like we have a good plan ahead for future stuff. But I'm always going to at least hit up a few guys that I know, pretty close with that part of our team or ghost team or whatever you want to call it. Since we don't really have them on the website or anything, but a bunch of good guys out there. Robert Weicker, Ken Morris, and some of our dealers. Close with a lot of the dealers. We'll touch base with them. Guys over there. Mark at Loveland and Dustin Hoy here locally. I mean, a lot of good ones here close to us in Ohio, but they're all over the country. A lot of good ones, and I know that our sales guy Eric will always be in touch with them. Just to have a voice from the dealers. We always want them to have a voice on, what are you looking for and stuff like that. But right now, this is our first in the Specialized line. I think it's pretty easy. The future where we're going to go, and then maybe at some point it's like, all right, now we really need to rely on input from other people, because right now it's pretty easy to see a short / long-term path.
I got you. That's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the features. Out of all the features that this boat entails, what's your most favorite one?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because here's what's cool. All the feedback I've seen so far on this boat, I've probably seen 10 features listed that I'll read, and just people say, man, that catchboard recess is my favorite, or that, those padlock paddle holders, the taco style, we're calling it the rod holster. They're like, man, that's my favorite. Or the cam strap, tank well instead of bungee. That's my favorite. I've seen like everyone, the front tank well with the storage internally. I've seen the cam strap front. I've just seen like 10 different things listed that are somebody's favorite, which is, to me, that's like really crazy. And that's cool. Cause man, if that's like your favorite and all those are that kind of equally good, like people's favorites, then the other ones are probably like still awesome to those other people too. But it's just cool. So in my opinion, my favorite one, this is like going to sound stupid, but my favorite feature is something that doesn't even come on the boat. It's a little recess on the right side for a hook sharpener, piece of hook sharpening stone that you'll be able to order those on the Crescent Kayak website soon. They're not quite in yet, but it's a teeny little thing. I mean, when you order them, I'm pretty sure it'll be like $5 or something. It's going to be like super cheap, but that's probably one of my favorite ones. And the line cutters that go on the other side that marry it, because I don't know, it just feels like in my mind, if people see those features and understand the thought process behind those, I don't know, I guess if they see them on that boat, it's kind of like, if someone's thought of those two little things, with how minor those are, a little hook sharpener, because we don't sharpen our hooks as much as we need to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't. And being able to cut a line really quickly with the hook sharpener and save time. But anyway, people probably see that and they think, if they've thought of that, they've thought of everything probably on this boat. You know what I mean? Which is kind of what I wanted to do, is just try to think as much stuff as possible that would benefit the angler, but without, and we'll get into this later, but without putting the angler in a box for, where this has to go there or this has to go there. It still has all the gear tracks to put things anywhere, but we have multiple purposes for everything. So anyway, that's kind of like one of my favorite features, even though it's small and subtle. It's just because it speaks to how just detailed I was in designing this entire deck. I was like, not going to, every little space. It's like kayak's so hard to design, because I mean, an inch or half an inch is crazy, because it's going to, I mean, even that catchboard, it's like, if it's too, we tested this a lot. If it's too much further away, you can't really take a picture of your fish there.
Yeah.
If it's closer any bit, your feet don't fit there when you're standing. And then, not that that's a big deal. I'm sure someone's going to come out with a completely flush piece of foam measuring something or whatever that's going to go right in there. But and then you can obviously pull that out if your foot goes over that and it really bothers you. I don't think you got to have a pretty big foot. If your heel's backed up right to where it should be, right to where the towers of the high-low seat start on the front. If your heel's back up there, I think you should be good in a size like 13 foot, even 12, 13, like a big foot before you even get to that recess, right? And then it's still okay because your catchboard's in there and it's hitting it a little bit. And then how much does your toe have to stick over it before you even really feel it, or does it bother you? So the point is that like the inches are so like it's centimeters, man. Like designing this boat, it's centimeters, so it's very challenging. But I think we nailed it on where the catchboard is. But anyway, if I had to do a 2, my second favorite feature, and this is hard for me because there's a lot I want to list here, but the cam strap front handle, it's called the cam track system, where it's about a 7-foot strap and it's got a handle sewn into it actually, but then the whole thing can be, pulled into a big loop, which is going to cut it in half. So it's like 3.5 feet, or it can be all pulled all the way through to make it complete 7 foot. I mean, to me, that's just so cool because you can even remove it. And that's just a rod staging groove in the middle, or you could put a spotlight on there, which we did in the promo video. If you watch that, when I got the spotlight, that's what I had on there, was the Zeus Mini from GoPro.
That's cool.
On that front track. And so you can put a GoPro, you can put a roto grip, or just leave it blank, strip it all the way down. So you have nothing bothering you. Once you get to the water, it's just 3 empty things. There's just not a lot of kayaks like that. The handles typically, I think Bonafide did a good job with their handles because it's kind of frees up their bow,
Yeah, it's underneath.
They did a good job. Yeah. And that was a clever design. But this one's kind of cool because that strap it's my wading belt, right? It is my toe strap to and from the water. It is my stand assist strap if I need one. I can remove it and use it in the other spot for the stand assist. It's just multi-purpose. We didn't market this on the walkthrough video, but I actually use it to strap the kayak to the truck too. We just didn't want to promote that in case someone's kayak went flying off. But
Yeah.
if you notice, Brad, the Yak Attack, that front handle system there has 2 Yak Attack, what are those things? Vertical tie downs. And they have a stud on the bottom, not a T-bolt. And that's to screw into the 2 inserts on either side of that gear track. So there's 2 inserts. So all the screws you see in the middle on that gear track are screws into the plastic. But the 2 on the either end where those, vertical tie downs go are inserts. So that's why you've got, which is no different than any handle of any kayak. They're screwed into inserts. So you got a lot of strength there. So anyway, that's probably one of my favorite features of the boat for sure, just because it's so unique and different. And to cheat a little bit, that ties into those cam straps. There's many little 3/4 inch ones on the back and the tank well, which for a river angler or any angler who may not want to lose their gear, you can cinch those things down and they compress real tight. But so I'll kind of cheat on that. I almost want to say the tank well internal storage, that internal tank well in the front, but we're going to talk about all these features. But so let's just move on before I list every feature as my favorite.
I was about to say, I just want to say, I know you already hit on it, but how you said, I knew the hook sharpener was going to be your first thing you said. I was like, he's going to say the hook sharpener. And when you went into it and you were like, if people see how much detail I put into this, and I would agree, it's if they see the detail you're putting in the hook sharpener, the line cutter, making the front cam strap have 4 different things it can do.
Right.
It just builds their confidence for everything else on the boat. So they feel more comfortable of buying the boat, because it's not like we're coming to Dick's Sporting Goods and getting a $150 lifetime or something. I mean, it's, you pay a little bit for it, so you want to, seeing those little things just puts, at least for someone like me, because I can be a little cheap. I know my tackle and stuff doesn't say I am, but I can be, and it just puts them at ease and it just builds confidence. That's the first thing I thought of when he said that. I was like, oh yeah, if he's putting the detail in a hook sharpener and a line cutter, those cam straps in the back work, the front tank, which like Drew said, we're going to get to all this, but that all, it all has a purpose. It was thought out. It was well done. It was tested, and now it works, and I can trust it. So
exactly. And I will say that fishing a tournament, being a tournament angler and obviously having some success on that side, when you compare that with what you just said with previous designs and the little things, it's kind of like, I hope it does give people confidence, because I take a lot of pride in it. This has taken 2 years, I mean, if you knew the backstory and all this and how I've gotten by, it's been a miracle, man. But I mean, it's just tournaments save me there, to be able to have some money and an opportunity to win some stuff, because a big part of the money I make definitely comes from the work I do, which are the designs with Crescent, right? So, it's really a pretty cool, just American story, man, about somebody that just worked super hard, and like everybody with anybody's jobs out there, you got your highs, you got lows, mountains, valleys, whatever you want to say, time to plant, a time to harvest. And for me, it's really cool seeing all the hard work that I put in, that James put in, the whole team, that no one's seeing us grinding behind the scenes and all this just finally come together. And the fact that people are noticing what you're saying, it's exciting, man. But that catchboard, man, that
I love it.
When I first designed it, I think that might have been my favorite. That's the one that most people are saying is their favorite. So I will shout that out, because when I was fishing that tournament on the first one I fished here on Lewis Smith Lake when I won, whatever that was, a week and a half ago for Bassmaster, that was the coolest thing in the world. I never had to think about where my catch board was and where I'm grabbing it, where I'm moving it to, it making noise or whatever, or anything sticking up off my kayak, which is, again, a big theme on this kayak. Nothing sticking up. I mean, if you want it sticking up, that's cool, but everything's kind of has a place if you want it all down and recessed. But that was just the coolest thing, man, having that catch board there and just laying your fish there and put them back in the water. I loved it. So
I agree. And going back to like the little attention to detail, like to tie it in with what I do for work, I'm a home remodeler. We'll put on like switch plates like over here, the little screws that you screw in with. We'll line those up like that. And I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, that's cool that you guys pay attention to that little detail. I'm like, yeah, well, that people appreciate that kind of thing.
That's cool. So you line them up vertical?
Yeah.
They all finish vertical. That's cool.
Yep. Yeah. So it's kind of like the same thing like you did, adding the little tiny details to the boat.
Yeah, people see the little things, and no matter what profession you're in, if they see the little things, they appreciate the overall project at the end way more. So
right, and they just know they can trust that the bigger things have definitely been thought. If the small things have been thought about, dude, all the big stuff has been thought about 10 times as much, because that was pretty easy to put a little recess in for hook sharpening stone, and a line cutters, and it was. If there was, this is just more of a personal note. This is what's cool about this podcast. You guys get the inside scoop. On a personal note, we put a date out, and that was partially to make us get it done and get it out, right, and get it finished. But in perfect world, we probably needed another week to really make a little bit better walkthrough video with more B-roll we had built up, and Scott, not to be so rushed trying to edit that thing. Scott Butcher did a great job with the limited time. And Justin, with our marketing director as well, we were all kind of crunched. But anyway, the one thing that got left out, which we walked through the entire kayak, but it was like 38 minutes long, right? On that originally. And then it got cut to 20 for the walkthrough video. And the one thing I was like, I didn't see it until it was already done. And I wasn't, going to nitpick at all because Scott's up all night doing that. So, but, and I don't know whose decision it was, and it's fine, whatever. But the hook sharpener and the line cutters was not in the walkthrough video, and I was like, "Dang!" I was like, "Guys, there's one thing that I wanted people to see like that detail was thought of, and if that was thought of, I know what the reaction was going to be. It's like, So, but either way, I'll make my video, and I've posted about it. People know that's what they're for now, obviously, and the website will show it. But there's a few things like that got left out. But that's kind of cool in a way because now. I can kind of share little secrets on social and kind of just surprise people. So, but Ken Morris did have a good point that I personally don't mind. I think that once someone's watched that 3-minute video and they're stoked on the kayak, they're going to watch the video no matter if it's 45 minutes. They want to see every single thing about it. They want more, not less. They do. They don't care if it says 20 minutes on there or 35 or 40. They don't care because, as a matter of fact, proof of that is we have way more views on the YouTube 20-minute walkthrough video than we do on that 3-minute teaser video, which, short. Do you think they're going to watch that more? Right. Well, not already. It's already flopped. It's already more watching the long one. So I think they want that detail. But the other thing that Ken said, which was a good point, was it also serves as an instructional for the dealers. So if everything's in there, the dealers might not all, or the employees that work there might not, follow me on social media. They're going to miss my post or whatever about this. This is a line cutter's recess or a hook sharpener, or that's what this is for, that, whatever. So that's a good point he had too about it's also that video is educational for the consumer and the dealer and their employees. So, but anyway, I'll cover it. Trust me. We're covering it now, but I'm going to cover it in a video. It'll have it all.
Yeah. Visuals better, but I want to talk about the rod stagers on the deck. That's cool. Because I've never had a kayak that had that. I would always set the rod butt on my seat. And for lack of better terms, I would hit myself in the, that bad region that hurts. And I'd be like, ow, man. I put my rod stagers in those little cubbies now. And I'm like, this is sweet.
You're talking, so the rod butt stagers that are right below your, right in between your legs there. those the ones you're talking about? The ones right
Yep.
there? Okay, there's those. And then what's really cool
The higher
is
ones.
the ones that are, just a little bit higher, just where when your seat's in the high position, you can put those butts just back a little bit. And those higher ones, what's so really money about those is it even lines up, even better in those front grooves on the hatch there. Actually, when the picture was taken right there on the website, you can tell they're probably in the lower position because that's where the other picture's taken. Yeah, with the rod butt grooves on the deck. But anyway, they're fully all the way in there. They're at the exact angle to get all the way in that rod groove, right? So if you took your hand across the top of that front hatch, you're not going to feel the rod sticking up. They're flush down in there. What else is cool is when you move them back like that, they actually, if you have a 7'3", 7'1", whatever, any rod that's sort of in that length, which is the most common rod length, your baits literally are just exactly at the end of the kayak. So there's not any rod tip sticking out, any length of rod sticking out to catch things. There's tucked in there as much as possible. So that's pretty cool.
I've broken rods doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I literally on Wednesday, I was going a little river float. I just drug my kayak out, brought like 3 rods with me, and I was throwing a Ned rig on a BFS. It's a 7'1" casting rod. I put it down. I was like, oh, I'm going to go set up over here. So I put it down in front, and I wasn't paying attention. And that little Ned rig had about that much line out, and just caught a tree branch. No, luckily I saw it. Like I was just not paying attention. I looked back in the corner of my eye, I just saw my tip start going, and I saw my butt start moving. I was like, oh no. Good. So I just stopped it, and I lucked out because that's like, I can't just go replace that rod. So yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I've broken way too many rods in my day, man. They just that's part of being a river angler, I guess. But but you're right, those rod butt stagers are cool because when you're in waves, whether you're a lake angler or a river angler, when you're in waves, your butts and your reels will move on the deck. They'll slide when it's flat. So to have a place for them to sit, the butts, where they're not going to slide, because what happens when they slide, guess what? What's happening on the tips? Tips are also sliding and moving into each other. Now you're tangled up, on the bow. And now you got a problem because you were just in waves, which is not a good, good situation. Something big and hairy's going on, big enough waves to move your rods. So now you've got a bigger mess, right? So, I got to get out of this, take your paddle and get somewhere calmer first, and then you can deal with your mess. But anyway, those rod butt stagers there on the floor are really cool. And that's kind of like where I put them. If I'm standing and fishing, they'll be there. My paddle will be in the roto grips. And then I can quickly just slide those rods, a little bit forward underneath the paddle to switch.
On the side of the seat, you also got like a little groove right behind the cup holders. Is that also for the rods, or is that a paddle holder?
Yeah, secret right there. Wasn't mentioned on the walkthrough video, revealing another secrets and hacks. That is for a rod to go. If you want a rod to go there, it's just a landing that we thought would be cool to be able to stage, a rod forward or backward. Doesn't really matter what direction. It's kind of up to you, but we knew people would take advantage of it. So
heck yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of passed the front a little bit. I want to go back up to the recess spot where you put your fish finder. I'm trying to figure out where exactly you're drilling to put your fish finder. How do you set that up?
To there, that front hatch you just passed.
Did I?
You're good. Go up a little bit more. By the way, this is a good visual podcast, folks. There's that front hatch. It's the hatch. It's not really showing the cubby though, I guess.
Yeah, I was just
saying. But that's kind of where. Are you talking about how am I installing the fish finder unit, or how am I getting my wiring to the battery, which is going to end up in that compartment right there, your battery?
Yeah, both ways. Are you putting like a gear track there, or what? How are you doing that?
No, well, what I'm going to do is, that there's a security bar right there that's got it's kind of
steel one.
Yeah, the stainless steel one that's made to be like the stand assist. And you could try scrolling down and see if we can see that fish finder cubby. Should be somewhere showing in there.
I think we're getting there. It is.
There it is. So there, that stainless steel right there. Those are inserts into the kayak, and we wanted that for strength, obviously for stand assist if someone wanted to use it. But what I think a lot of people are going to do, I know I'm going to do this. Remove that because there's a couple boxes that actually fit. Groove Fishing makes a couple boxes. I know Plano and other brands have them that are that size. They can go in there, but there's also some Plano bags that fit perfectly in there. And when the boxes are in there, that really can't be there. That stainless steel security bar. Otherwise, it kind of doesn't quite fit. but I want to take it out anyway. And when so I'm going to have two. This is kind of like, I'm lucky, right? I get a cheat. I get to have two Shoalies, one that's stripped down and for river and creek, right? And one that is electronics focused. So with my Garmin, my motor guide, power pole, which you name it, it's just going to have it all. And then, so my thinking, and I still haven't even like done this, but I know someone's going to do it very soon. There's two things you can do. One, I know Scott Butcher had one of the best ideas, the iPhone holder there, which is for live streaming and selfies. It's set up perfectly to face you. That little recess there is the perfect recess for a mighty mount to go. If you want to put a mighty mount from Yak Attack there, and then use their
like vertically.
Yeah, exactly, on that wall, and use their universal fish finder mount. But you could also, what's crazy is right where that scupper is. You see that that scupper hole there, and that groove that lets water flow down. That's also for your wiring to go down to your scupper transducer. You actually, on that landing there on either side, you can build a bridge in a sense by putting, that was made for a gear track, the right width for a gear track. Okay. So someone might want to use that, put a gear track there, and then use the Yak Attack, universal. I personally am going to find a way to, and maybe one objective or someone, Yak Gadget, somebody that's creative is going to make something. I want my fish finder in there. I do want it to swivel a little bit to change my angle, but I want it kind of in that cubby, and I'm going to use those inserts somehow to secure it in there. You know what I mean? Like securely, tightly, and then remove it. And honestly, this is like so early on. I don't know exactly how. I think Robert Weicker is going to figure it out more first before anyone else, because he's like the man when it comes to electronics. But the other thing to make note of that fish finder cubby, it's hard to see, but on the sides there where that come down at that angle, right? That make and you can put your cursor there. Maybe we can even see your cursor. I'm not sure. Oh yeah. So the sides that go down at an angle, each side of that, right there. So on the top, go to the very top of that, and you'll notice there's a gap right there. Yep, there's a gap there. And on the other side, that's also for a gear track to go across the whole thing and make a bridge. And why is because a lot of people would want a gear track there, because if you look just on the other side of that, back towards the bow there, you see those grooves, all the rod staging grooves are right there. So we don't really have a good flat spot for a track. So what we did is we made a landing where you can put one right there. So the boats, again, it's like there's a lot going on. It's crazy complex, but it's insanely simple. And that was the biggest compliment somebody gave James. They said, man, this boat is really cool, sleek, and it's just kind of like simple. And it wasn't an insult to me, because I've used the mold to recess and house a lot of these ideas. And if like, for example, if you don't use a fish finder at all, you still want a cubby to like throw loose lures, or you still want the iPhone. Maybe you want the iPhone holder to take your selfies or live stream or whatever. Maybe you want to put a tackle box there. There's a million other uses for that cubby in that space there. And that's how the whole boat is designed. Like the Anchor Wizard recess is a cup holder. If you don't have an Anchor Wizard, if you do, guess what? You now have one cup holder on your kayak, not two. No big deal, right? It's like if you have two, then you're fine with that. Plus, that's another spot you can throw weights and hooks and stuff. But the other thing about that, if you wanted to cut I'm like really getting into the weeds, but about all my thinking on this. But if you want to cut the iPhone holder strap away, or unscrew it, I should say, or cut it, whatever. The Groove Fishing makes those big jig launch pads, and there's one that's called the hard bait launch pad, and it actually holds like your spooks and jerk baits and whopper ploppers and things like that. It's a hard bait launch pad that fits perfectly right in there, and that was done for a reason too. So you can have baits right up there that you might feel might be handy during the day. And there's the catchboard recess on either side is also a spot that fits those hard bait and hard bait launch pad and the big jig launch pad. And they're basically just the 3M material comes off, and you rip it off and you stick it wherever you want on your kayak, and it, can hold your single hook baits. The big jig launch pad is just for single hook baits. And, it looks almost like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like pill thing, right?
Pill container,
like pill container, but it's a little smaller.
Yeah.
But anyway, the slots between the silicone put those single hooks there, and again, those are little secrets to the boat that people don't know. There's dual purposes kind of to everything, and the cool thing about the catchboard recess where those go, and this cubby recess, is when you put something there, it's not sticking out like if you just stick it on the wall that's exposed to your legs. It's recessed in that catchboard area. It's recessed into this cubby. You're not going to accidentally get a hook in you when you put them in those little areas that are designed to be recessed. So anyway, that's kind of that cubby. I love it. And, if you're going bow to stern on this, if you want to talk, we could go back up and briefly, because we've already talked about the handle on the bow, talk about that hatch and the internal storage for the rods.
Yeah, that's what I was going to hit next.
Oh, perfect. So, yeah.
Yeah. So how that, like, the rod locker is genius. Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know where to start. I mean, how did you guys come about that?
I'd always put rods internal in the hole in other kayaks, and the problem is they always got banged up. They made noise when I'm fishing, hitting. They were kind of bouncing in there. I knew it's not good for the rods, and always having broken guides and eyelets and stuff. So I just was like, hey, I want to make a way where there's internal storage somehow built in. And then it just sort of hit me that I think if our hatch is big enough, we talked about, cutting it out or not. And we just kind of talked about if the front was a tank well, then we could, the solo skiff that Crescent makes as well, or used to make, it's kind of offline now. I'm not sure if it's going to come back up on or not, but it has those rod tube flanges, right? And other boats too, like Hobies and other ones. Plenty of boats have them, but they just were sitting there one day. That's why I'm referencing that one. And it kind of just hit me. I was like, I think I talked to James. I was like, how much room do we have from where we need our, because the real reason that cubby where the fish finder is, that whole area, the real reason there's that much room there is always based on the foot tracks, the foot pegs, right? You need to have enough length. How long are our foot pegs, right? So how far back are they going to go? And then from that point, once they stop, as far as the person with the longest feet go, right? As soon as they stop and that foot track is no longer there, that's kind of where our wall can begin. That's when we can begin our wall to get how big of a tank well was I getting at? Can we have? And is it going to be big enough to be able to, with a little bit of just slight pressure on your rod, you got to, figure out how to do it. And I'll show that in my video. It's not hard. I'm actually going to put a rod glove on the rods. And then when you do that, your guides don't catch at all on the way in or out, and it protects them even better. Actually, my original idea was I wanted rod gloves to be, because right now it's just those rod flanges, those little ports, if you will, that the rods go in, and that's just open inside to the hole, which accomplishes my purpose because the rod butts in the tank well, they're in those little U-shaped grooves, and they don't slide around anywhere. The rods are, I imagine they're just loose floating inside the hole. They're not even touching anything. So they're not getting damaged. They're good to go. But anyway, that was kind of the thought process there on that. Just how big could it be? And then, hey, if we're making this hatch watertight already for, batteries, electronics, to be safe for rivers, want the hatch to be watertight, then, then why not just tell people they can cut it out? I forget what I was going to say. I was going to say I wanted the rod gloves to be actually somehow attached to those ports where you stick the rods in, and now they're just floating. They're floating, but the reason we didn't do it, a couple reasons. One, it's just, to me, it's a hidden feature that you can't really show in any way. There's nowhere to really show it, and it's not that critical. I mean, we can all do that ourselves. It's pretty easy just to put a rod glove in there, and that's it. So, but I might find a way to secure mine in there. Plus, the more things you do, the more it adds up and the retail cost goes up. And I want to make sure people can get in this boat first, and then they can kind of customize it the way they want.
I'm guessing the reason why you guys didn't add a third one was because of the shape of the hull from the cubby.
Honestly, it's just something we decided, let's just not overdo it. Maybe everyone doesn't want a third one, and the little trim line is there for a third one. And obviously the U-shaped groove is there for a third one. So you can get 3. You have to buy that from us. You can do 3, no problem. It was honestly just like another thing. It's just the price is going to go up. They get the idea. The feature's cool. They get the idea. But since not everybody may even want it or use it, just why put it? It would have been weird to have just one. You know what I'm saying? And then it'd have been weird. And then if you do 3, then it's like, gosh, man, I didn't need, if someone doesn't use that space, you can take the price of times 3 they just paid and then triple it to get up to retail cost.
Yeah.
because our cost and the dealer cost. And now you added a lot of price to the boat that not everyone's going to use. It's different where the extra foam in the seat, for example, is something everyone appreciates. Everyone's going to use it. No worries. Features like that, they really move the needle, and it's worth it, adding some extra costs into those. But for that one, we just want to get the point across and
I got you.
That's show
cool.
it with two. But yeah, add a third one, guys. I mean, I'm going to add a third one. It's like
I am too.
a
That's why I
no-brainer,
asked.
dude. Might as well. There's probably a way
Yes.
to get more in there, quite frankly. There's probably a way to get other ones in there at different geometry. And don't be afraid. There's two levels of that tank well. So let's think about this right now. Let's say you don't have any rods in there at all, or you just have one. That lowest level is deep enough. I made it deep enough where your bigger batteries are even going to fit in there. So if you have a bow mounted motor or stern mounted, it doesn't matter, because sometimes you have a stern mounted motor, you might want a battery in the bow for weight purposes. So either way, it fits even the biggest batteries. But in my mind, I'm envisioning those little smaller, like box thing, like Dakota Lithium has, or Lithium Pros, who I'm sponsored by. They made a nice little small battery that's powerful enough. Now it's bigger than that typical one from Dakota that we all know in that little box. It's bigger than that one, the one that Lithium Pros makes, but it's like powerful enough to run live scope and all that stuff for the entire day. No problem. But I made sure that all fits in there. And then the upper level is just like, hey, if you got some little small items that you don't want just laying loose in a kind of bigger space, that's kind of what the upper level is for. And if you want to cut the whole thing out and have internal access for camping gear, you can do it, because the hatch is watertight. I mean, no problem. Go for it. And what I think is the sneakiest hack of all is, God, this could be like a freaking 3-hour podcast. The sneakiest of all is where you cut just the wall. So see where those U-shaped grooves are there?
Yeah.
Get right there, right below those U-shaped grooves, trim all that out all the way around into that deeper, the deeper level. Cut all that out, but make sure you go below the rod tubes, right? Your rod tube flanges. And now that's all open, and you have internal access for sleeping gear, like for tents and sleeping bags, stuff like that, dry bags, and you still have your internal rod storage system working. Isn't that cool? Plus an upper level cubby for small items, like a first aid kit in that upper level cubby.
That's a good idea.
So that's my hack that I think is the coolest one. You get to have your cake and eat it too. So, and anyone out there I've seen like, oh man, negative. I won't say negative. No one's been negative on the boat. Everyone's very positive, but they said, man, I love the kayak camp. I sure wish that wasn't a tank well up there. It's like, no, like every kayak that is made, they take a saw and they cut that out. All I'm doing and all we did is give you that option now, because a lot of people, I think more people probably want the tank well than it cut out completely. So what if you cut it out completely? You just screwed over, like all the people that want the tank well. They can't they can't go back. It's like you've made the decision for them. And I'm saying, no, you, the angler, get to make that decision. You want to cut it out, you go for it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Plus, a lot of people may need the access for securing different things up like on the bow. If you're doing a quick release bracket or something, you might want the access, which is fine. You can even cut that little wall on the very front just to get a hand through. And think about this. You don't need to put a hatch there or a seal. You can cut whatever amount you want and just leave it open, and then close the hatch lid, watertight. You're good. So anyway, but yeah, it's a cool feature. It's one of my favorites for sure. It almost made the list. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Matt?
That the hatch first, that's all I was thinking. It was like, dude, I would just cut the bottom out and then I got the best of both worlds. So great thought. Second, on that walkthrough video that you and James did, you were talking about that hatch lid to where it's thermo molded, correct? Am I right in saying that? I'm not a doctor.
Yes, exactly. No, all right. Yeah. Or sorry, not thermo. Sorry, rotomolded. Yeah.
Rotomolded.
Use the word, Thermoform is the one. Yeah. You said the word molded and it threw me off, but it is rotomolded. Yes.
Yeah. So can you explain the difference? Because I know it goes a little bit in the walkthrough video, but can you explain the difference between like a typical thermoformed and then the rotomolded that you guys did?
I can 100%. But actually, before I do that, I just had a thought that before we get off this other topic, what if you cut out the upper layer? Now you've got a barrier where items can't, because there's a wall for that lower level. Now you got a barrier that your sleeping bag and your dry bags, whatever's in there, can't go back towards the middle. Plus, you got easier access to the front of that underneath the gear track, the cam track handle system on the bow to rig stuff. It's a lot closer. So, and you still can keep your rod butt staging grooves there and your rod storage, plus have your spot for a battery, the floor for your battery and all that. So maybe the upper level is the way to go. Sorry.
You're gonna have like 6 Shoalies with all these different configurations just all laid out.
There's a lot of hacks here. But anyway, now to your question. So the rotomolded hatch is the same way you've seen Hobie do it. It's the same color as their boat. It matches. It's the same material. You can do some cool different things with that. We embossed the word. What do we emboss on the front there? Crescent. So it's kind of just a new, cool looking thing. You can get real fine details with embossing things and just stuff like that. But we just thought the look was cool. Usually when you thermoform, you're going to go to a contrasting color, like all your bungees and all your, whatever components on the kayak. A lot of them are black. So a lot of times you'll see their thermoform black hatches. And I mean, they can get pretty darn light. I don't know. This hatch might be a tad heavier than a thermoform part, but not by much. But I think that's where you're saving. You're saving a little bit on weight maybe, and it's just different look, honestly. But you can get a little bit more detail this way. And we thought the look was pretty cool and unique and different too. So especially when we did the embossing, right? And the rod saver that's up there that kind of is to secure your rods when you're either going down something hairy, or for me, it's basically when I'm securing them to, like we said earlier, those rods fit perfectly in those grooves when you put the rod butts in the proper places, right? Even in the U shape of the seat, the little U's, put your rod butts in there. There's grooves that match. But anyway, when all my rods are in there, I just strap that rod saver right down and just throw it in the back of my truck and I go. Just like you would do on a bass boat before they run, or even when they're driving on the highway. It's the same rod saver company that makes the bass boat rod savers on the deck of a bass boat. They strap it down. Anyway, but not that you couldn't do that on thermoform hatch, because you could have. But to us, it just made all the components in the systems kind of a little bit more secure and being able to screw into and tap into, where thermoform is a little bit weaker because it's lighter. You can't really do as many systems like that quite as strongly, or you got to go to a thicker thermoform material, which is gaining the weight back, and then you can't do as much detail and sharp edges and cool, just different stuff like that when it's because it's thicker and thermoform's trying to stretch a piece of a sheet of whatever however thickness it is. So in other words, if you couldn't thermoform that down, I mean you could, you need a thicker sheet that the depth of that recess there for that where the battery compartment is going to go. If you can imagine, that's a lot of draw coming stretching a piece of plastic that's a flat sheet down. So anyway, but yeah, that's a good question about that front hatch. We got some webbed hinges on the front. The only thing I think someone mentioned that if I could go back and figure it out, maybe we can, which we probably will be able to, but is I wish that hatch could move
open both ways.
Open both ways, or get a little bit further out of the way. The rods.
That's what I was.
I
was going to say that next.
Yep. It's a good point. It's something that we knew, but we got it laying back pretty darn out of the way. Rods, once you know how to do it and you do it once, it's not hard. Your rods go in there, no problem. But we'll maybe work on that. That could be an upgrade or something. But
I was actually thinking of taking those screws off the front hatch and putting a pad eye with a bungee doubled over, and then put like a little hook on the front hatch, so you can just open
pop
it both
off.
ways.
Yeah, exactly. Open it both ways and pop it off. So
that's
a good idea.
I like that feature, but I know some kayaks do it. Other kayaks don't. But
yeah, that's a cool feature. And we did it like that because we wanted the maximum compression for that watertight seal, and maybe I don't know, the other way it'll probably still be just as good, I guess, if you do it right. But we're gonna look into that one for sure. It's minor, but I think it's worth looking into for sure, because I think it'll just add a little bit more versatility to the boat. So maybe down the road in 2023 or 2024 at some point. But like you said, you can DIY it pretty easy.
Yep. Yeah, that's
but
what
once
I'm
you do it,
doing.
I mean, yeah.
I'll take pictures and show you too when I'm finished with it.
Dude, please do. Yeah, that'll help.
Just make sure if there's any patents, you put Brad's name on it.
That's right.
Jeez.
Get his royalty.
So going back to the Anchor Wizard, you briefly touched on it. I've been trying to picture how the heck this thing works. I can't figure it out. I know there's a bracket coming, so how does it work?
Let's see if we have a picture of it. Do we have one? yet. We
I'm
may not have one yet.
Strolling as fast as I can.
No, you're good. You're good. We may or may not have one.
Apple
Let's
computers.
see.
Jeez.
Oh, quit, Brad. don't judge my computer. That's the picture we should have gone to when we were
That
talking
fish
about
finder
the-
looks good. Yeah, in there.
Yeah.
I love the way it looks. Looks so good.
Oh
cool.
yeah, that looks
All right, I don't
really good.
see. And now there's more. This website's amazing. Like Justin did such a good job on this thing. God, that video is my favorite part. Giving money back to the
Oh, the Shoalie
the
program.
river
Yeah,
keeper,
we'll
yeah.
definitely. Yeah, we actually got to talk about that too.
We will. All right, so that looks like that. We don't have a picture of it yet on
Hey,
there, but
that's as close as I can get.
okay. Well, they have a mounting plate that's going to go there, so I'll explain it. It's a plate that they're going to sell. It's a separate SKU, Anchor Wizard, that's specifically for the Shoalie. And all it is a plate that goes and covers that whole circle right there. But only places it secures actually that you'll secure it is right there where you were just touching that. Yeah, with this little portion that sticks most inward in the kayak, those two spots right there and there. And it's the concept of a single power pole versus a dual power pole. If you just secured it with one, yeah, it might hold, but it's going to spin and move. It's going to it can be a lot of play with your chain or your anchor hitting the bottom of the river or lake. It's going to always be spinning. So you need two. So on those landings right there, it's going to secure down to right there with, we're going to recommend well nuts. So when you make a good size hole and then a well nut, it goes in, and what it does, it starts to pull up the bolt. It's basically just like a piece of rubber, and it keeps cinching its way down tight, and that rubber just bunches up so much it creates a washer
Friction.
So now it can't get out. Yeah.
Yep.
So a couple well nuts there, and there may be another way, I believe. I'm not sure if they ended up putting it on there or not, but me personally, if I feel like the two well nuts are not, they should hold just fine. Anchor Wizard feels like they will, but if for some reason I feel like I might have so there's a side handle right there on the outside of the boat, that red or black, whatever it is, side handle. That's an insert right there. So it's on the other side of the Anchor Wizard. We can't see it in that photo. So what I'm going to do is put just a small little bracket, for lack of a better term. Think of a fingernail file, right? And a little piece of metal. It's going to have a hole drilled into it. That's going to be the size of that insert. I'm going to screw it into my Anchor Wizard on the top, and I'm going to paint it so it all matches and looks nice. And it's just going to go over an L shape right to where that insert's going to be. I'm going to unscrew my handle, put that in there where it fits, and screw it right back in.
Gotcha.
That way, it's going to have just a third security point, just because I want I want it to be as secure as possible. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not sure if they're going to put that as part of their kit. But anyway, that's how it's going to work. And the mounting plate, what that does is there's a lip on the bottom of the Anchor Wizard. It's like a round lip, and I probably have them laying around here, I'm sure, somewhere. But I don't see one. But anyway, that lip has to be cut off, because if we were to make this, this little area right there fit the Anchor Wizard with exactly the size it is now, you got to go all the way to outside of that whole lip. And now you're talking like a gigantic circle, which pushes it way into your feet in this boat. It would push it way into your feet, way into everything. It wouldn't work. So I had to call them and be like, hey, can you guys, how hard would it be to just make a separate SKU where you just trim off the bottom? And then I sent them, they actually still have the first prototype of this boat, Anchor Wizard does. I sent that to them to have them design a way to attach to the boat. And so, they'll be posting it, I'm sure, soon. And I'm sure with the calls they're getting, like Boondocks with the landing gear and other brands that have integrated products, they're all of a sudden like, oh crap, we got to get on this. Like we did, like people are asking for this. This thing obviously is selling and people like it, so they're calling. They want the components that go with it. But anyway, it'll be soon. But what happens is, so the plate's on there and it just covers and it seals off that cup holder, if you will. It stays there. But then there's like a couple like pins or something that I've got one too. It's a couple pins, and it pushes down and pops into those pins, and you kind of twist it and it secures to that mounting plate. So now it's like secure. It's like one, right? But if you ever want to take your Anchor Wizard off, you can untwist it and pop it back out, and it can come off. Now, it can come off, but you're only putting that Anchor Wizard onto another Shoalie, because it's one with a trimmed off rim. So
yeah, I
mean, it's cool that it can come out. I like that if you don't want it in your way or whatever, it can come out. But that's kind of their idea. The other reason why they wanted to do that, I think, is popping it off was a little bit for a safety thing. If you ever wanted to pop it off, then you could, but I don't know if I fully ever wrap my head around that, because if it's popped off, it still has to be cut. The line's got to be cut.
Yeah, I was about to say that's what I was
mean,
thinking. Worst case, if it's safety, you just cut the line. Like,
cut
don't
the
worry
line.
about.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about popping a swivel lock out, because if you're freaking out and because anchors you can get stuck in weird positions, which can put you in weird positions.
Exactly.
So I mean, if I'm not going to think, all right, I'm going to grab it and swivel it and then cut it. I'm just going to take my knife or something and I'm just going to cut the line and be like, well, there goes a $15 anchor, and then just go.
No, you can reline them. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, and there's like
I'm talking
so
about
much
the anchor.
Anyway.
Oh,
yeah.
You can't get the anchor back.
No.
I gotcha.
But that is a good point about the Anchor Wizard. You should always have a knife on you, on your life jacket, ready to roll, because or scissors or something handy right there. Always. I mean,
NRS pilot knife that goes on the Chinook.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Perfect.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a perfect little add-on, and people don't think about that stuff. So a little safety Q&A. Yeah, everyone, definitely, if you're using an Anchor Wizard or any type of anchoring system, have a knife or something that cut through paracord, just in case.
I need to do that.
You never know.
Don't ever know. And that's actually another reason just why the Anchor Wizard, I think it's in a great spot. It's reachable, just right there in front of you, no big deal. Some people, I've seen them in the past, to put them behind them, like just when they've got the choice. And again, I just have to say this one more time. There's gear tracks all over the boat. There's places to put everything all over the boat. If you don't want something in a spot, no one's twisting your arm to put an Anchor Wizard right there if you don't want it there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've seen people just kind of forget that on the boat. But anyway, if you want it a little bit further behind you, that's okay. But the reason I like it where it is there is I can see it and I get better leverage, with it, right? And so the line is what you just said, Matt. The line, there's some space between the Anchor Wizard and the line going backwards where I can cut that thing if I need to. If you have it behind you, there's like no way to cut that line. It's like really difficult to get back there and like try to cut that line. But I like having that little bit of line right there. So plus it worked out perfectly where it's the right spot for cup holders too. So dual purpose.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's one thing about the boat, just from the beginning of the show talking about it. This boat's one of the best words I can say is very ergonomic. Like, everything is in a good spot. Like what you just mentioned with the Anchor Wizard. I put an Anchor Wizard behind me. I've got an anchor stuck, and I about broke my back trying to get back there to cut the line. And while I was facing backwards, once this big tension right when I cut it, the boat was like, let's go, and I had to spin back around real quick before I went face first into a log jam and died. So the boat is super ergonomic, and it all goes back to what you already said. If they notice that we did so much work on the little things, all this big stuff had so much thought process, and you're explaining, like, everything you're explaining, it's got bigger and bigger. Like the tank well, we went from, we put a hook sharpener and a line cutter to, this tank well can be 47,000 different configurations, whatever you want it to be. Like, it's the time and effort in this boat. Like, you can definitely tell it was put in.
I just can tell by actually talking this out with someone for the first time, and we're at like an hour and 13 minutes already, and I'm good to go as long as you guys want to go. So I'm not bringing that up for any other reason, to say that I am realizing now that I've got a pretty sick mind, like, and all this stuff, like I'm talking about it. There's like so many, I have thought this, so I'm just obsessed. Like, I have a sick, obsessive mind with like, oh wait, someone's not going to want that, but they're going to want this, and this, you know what I mean? Like, and I've thought, well, I'm going to solve that by making this a cup holder for them. And also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it's insane.
We appreciate your sick and twisted mind.
Yes, don't worry. We're on the same horse and wagon camp. Don't worry.
I will. I'll tell my wife that when she doesn't appreciate my sick and twisted mind all the time, having to live with me.
Yeah. Don't worry. Mine'll be in the same camp too. They'll be in their camp because it's the same way.
That's funny.
It's what makes us too. You know what I mean? It's what makes us different and unique. So gotta take the good with the bad.
I guess we can go through the back half of the boat pretty quick, because I mean, there's some big features in there, but there's also like little tiny features. If we want to hit that real quick, starting with the seat and the under storage tackle.
Let's see if we.
Yeah, man, the seats, the high-low seat from Crescent's pretty cool. And
first one for
have
Crescent,
that first
right?
one for Crescent. Yep. And then the under seat storage is, pretty self-explanatory. Like you said, there's a couple, what we're calling Plano stops. I guess that became the term that keep your boxes from sliding. They fit perfectly right underneath the seat. And someone posted a photo. You can actually turn them the opposite direction, and then two of them fit side by side. I don't know who posted this photo. Somebody did.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like, so if you imagine 3,700 box for Plano, it's not going parallel with the kayak underneath your seat like you would imagine it goes, and how I put them underneath there. They turn them, perpendicular with the boat, and then there's two of them that can fit right there, actually. And I jokingly replied to them and said, look, I'd love to take credit for it, but that's actually was not even designed. So that's just kind of cool bonus that I didn't think about that. And that's cool that they did, because now you're thinking, okay, well, if two can turn that way and they're 3,700 sizes, and you got two sides of the kayak, right? Underneath your right and your left. So that's already 4. Now stack them too high. 8.
Yep.
8 boxes.
No need for a crate and the added weight.
That's a lot of,
I was about to say, no need for a crate added weight, or if you're someone like me, now you can take another 6 boxes with you. So
exactly,
man,
exactly.
That's all you need, Matt.
That's right.
I know. Give me another reason to have more stuff.
That's right. And then the bungee on the side too, Matt. They hold the boxes as well, so they can stand up. Yep. So I don't know if I don't know if you have a picture of that on there. I think we would be.
Let's see.
But
I thought I saw it.
Well, you look for
right
it,
there.
And oh gosh, it can hold 2. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah,
held 2. So now it's even more.
I mean, we're getting into like bass boat territory with the amount of tackle you can bring.
It's a lot, and of course it can get secured down. Now here's a hack I'll tell you about. I don't know if anyone's going to do it, but you could put a J hook on those in the center channel where those Plano stops are. You could put a J hook there, and that bungee right there would reach over to it and actually secure your boxes under the seat. It would secure those down. So if you are going through rapids or anywhere you think you're going to flip, even though they're all loose in there, because the only problem with having them loose is if you do flip, they're probably going to get to find their way out. It's but if you put a J hook or 2 J hooks to really secure it, that same bungee right there, because it's all a big loop, you can boom, just toss them down. It might be a little bit tricky to kind of reach under there to hook it. I don't think it's going to be that hard, and the only time you're doing it is when you know serious potential for something good is there, so it's not very often. But that's a hack someone's probably going to do as well. But that's under
someone's
seat.
name is Drew Gregory.
Yeah,
that's who's going to do it.
Could be. I don't know, man. I could just go confidently that I'm not going to flip and just say, you know what, I'm just going.
Yeah.
Could be confident I'm not, but that's when you flip. Actually,
I was literally getting ready to say, as someone who has as much, like, way more experience than I do on the water, the second you say that, that's the time that you're going to flip.
It's the time.
Like Brad last year.
Yep. Then I guess a black pack for me, secured down with the bungee, with the cam straps, not the bungees.
Yeah.
In the back could be the way to go. But yeah, that's the under seat, I guess. And the seat itself, we had thicker foam. Just that's a new and different seat. It looks the same as the Crescent seat, but it's got a much thicker foam for your butt there, and that's the seat. And by the way, speaking of foam, there's this whole there's a pad kit on the entire boat that comes standard, so it's soft and comfortable. And of course, the catchboard recess area, we've got the pad kit that's got the inches on it, so you can. It's silent. It's meant to silence your catchboard in that area, but also has the inches on there in case you don't have a catchboard with you, or you're not in a tournament. You don't need to bring something extra. You're just fun fishing. It's good enough to show you the size of your fish. So that's pretty cool.
So you're saying Hobie Bass Open won't accept that for a ruler?
Yeah. I don't think that's going to fly. I don't think so.
Now, you can't flex that one, though.
That's true. You can't. But you also can't push. It's also not accurate, I don't think, if you push the nose of the fish up to the actual side of the wall of the kayak, because then it's already like an inch over. That measuring board starts about an inch off, maybe, or not quite that much. But
gotcha. That's cool.
So you'd be losing an inch. So it's actually
you would be losing an inch. It would hurt you.
I mean, yeah, that's a negative. So all right.
Yeah. Moving on back to these rod holders. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just real quick for people earlier in the show, when we were talking about that front cam strap, this is that. It's on the screen. Watch YouTube because it's there. awesome. I mean, fantastic way it was designed. So definitely.
Wade fishing.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
great for that. What I think you should do is put I burned a hole in the very end of my strap, and that way I've got a carabiner, because if you make it a loop and you put it around you when you're waiting, it's just going to fall. You know what I mean? When your boat gets a little bit of slack, the whole thing's just going to fall. And I don't want to tie anything to me where it's like I have to untie it, because then it just keeps getting cinched down tighter. So what you can do is put a loop in the very end of your cam strap, get a carabiner, and you can do, now that you have a loop in the end of your cam strap, you can do two things. You can go around your waist completely and maybe go through like one belt loop or something if you have a belt loop, and go back to that hole that you burn in it. Or you can just go leave the entire length of, take the strap all the way to 7 foot, and then just have that entire length and just clip it to a belt loop or life jacket or whatever.
Heck
So
yeah.
that's what I did to mine. And then it still goes through the cam buckle and all that. Just, you just burned a hole in it.
Heck yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Matt, you want to go back to the very back well?
It's right there.
Gotcha. All
Oh,
right.
yeah, there it is.
I didn't
Yep.
see it.
There's the mini cam, 3/4 inch cam straps.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys did that, because that's something I always thought about doing with like 12-inch cam straps and like eyelets, but I just never got around to doing it. And I thought it was funny that you mentioned the dynamic between you and James going back and forth on that. I just thought that was funny.
That's true. He was not sold on this idea. And I thought it was awesome because for the securing purposes, and that it married the cam strap on the bow, like just a whole new system, you know what I mean? Cam track system. And anyway, I just had to source some mini ones, some 3/4 inch ones, and found a good source. Again, USA made over there in Oregon. And they're really cool. I mean, it's like, for the items you're putting back there, black packs, and I actually have a picture that, man, I could pull it up and show you on the screen here, but I don't know where it is. Maybe I'll find it. But it's the thinnest Plano box, right? Down on the floor of that tank well, and secured down to the floor, and it's not moving at all. And you're like, well, how can that happen? Well, we didn't just think about, putting cam straps there to make it secure. We thought about 2 points as low as possible. So the one that's for the back of the seat, right? And then another one that's right there by that round hatch on either end there in that center channel of, where the scupper channel is. I wanted the most downward compression possible. And you can't right now, even with the cam straps, if you don't have that downward compression, and even with bungee, if an item is not at least the height of the depth of the tank well, it's not touching the bungee. It's just loose, hanging in there, hanging out.
Yeah.
But having that, the downforce in those, 2 security bars that I'm talking about, allows you to secure down whatever in the world you want all the way to the floor, and not even to the sidewalls, which is how they're kind of, like you see the picture there, how they come. But what's cool is you get 2 of them with your kayak, and you can buy more at crescentkayaks.com. You can buy more. I actually like having 4 for your black pack. It's really cool. You can go to every corner because they have a vertical tie down, where your strap can go through. I like them on every corner, just cranked down tight, and they're not that expensive. So you can definitely go buy a couple extras. And, but yeah, I love it, man. It's such a cool system. But the thing was with James, he believed in it, and then he had to wrap his head around, well, how are we going to make it look clean and neat in there? And we have these little rubber bands, I think, that take the excess, because once you pull the cam strap through, you got this excess laying there. It just doesn't look as neat and clean as as bungee probably looks just from the outside looking in. And again, that's the struggle, is how do you take, James had to take my ideas and concepts, and some of them are crazy and they're more about the function. For me, I just want this thing. I don't care what something looks like. I just want it to be the most, fishable as possible. And, but that's just not the reality. Not everyone's like me. They look at something and want it to look pretty. And that's what he had to kind of figure out. And I think it looked good, the configuration. So I sent them, this is a pretty funny. When I was messing around with this idea, when I had the prototype, I got lots of these cam straps to test. And I took a one that was, I don't know how long it was, 5 or 6 feet, maybe longer, 7. And there's all kinds of different locations you can weave it underneath the gear track back there, not to mention the security bars and the floor, the other 2 security bars on the side. There's a lot. And I sent them, I took a picture of it, and I don't know what, it was like 30 or 40 different combinations of ways to weave it to the floor, to all that stuff, just how many ways it could work in there. And then I obviously didn't want to send, the team a picture of, 30 different separate pictures. So all I did was take on the iPhone where it shows your library and you see all those mini pictures, the thumbnails. I just sent them a screenshot of like 2 of those. It was like infinite combinations, man. Like you can just strap down anything you want of any size. Never again will anyone complain or a river angler lose something as long as they're utilizing this feature. So
yeah, I dig that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys.
That's such a good idea.
Cool. So I guess the last thing we have left is the hatch and then like the mount for the motors. And this is what I like. You got the rear access hatch. It's really easy to reach in there and bolt on a motor. Do you recommend like backing underneath?
Yeah, the one reason why we didn't use inserts for the power pole geometry there, which has kind of become standard for torpedo mounts and things like that, is because 2 reasons. One, shrinkage on these kayaks is just varies. I mean, they all shrink at different rates. The last thing you want is a brand new kayak and your mount doesn't fit.
Yeah,
that's 1. 2 is it's going to be a little bit easier now, which kind of I guess coincides with 1. But now it's just easier. You get to line it up exactly where you want it and just drill the hole through there. But I feel like the main part of 2 is it's a better connection because a washer and a bolt underneath there, even backing plates, like you're saying, are going to always be stronger than an insert, which when you bump that thing hard, inserts can rip out of kayaks when they're hit really hard. And we're actually finding that some other manufacturers for sure have seen that like some inserts in the wrong places are causing warranty issues and problems. So that's the last thing you want anyway, especially when you're going to give access to the consumer with the rear hatch. It's so easy to put that stuff in there. So once we did that, it was pretty easy to make that decision to not put inserts there.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is with the power pole up like that, with the way we did it, you can run a drag chain and a power pole simultaneously.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I've never ran a drag chain. I need to try that out now that I have that little channel now.
I love it, man. It's just, if the fish are in those eddies and your water's high and swift like yours is now, and when you get on the water, it's going to be moving, I'm sure, as it's coming down, they're going to be in the same spots you want to eddy out in to stop to fish. So this is going to hold you in the swifter water. Again, the caveat on that is don't ever drop a drag chain somewhere that's so swift that you can't paddle backwards upstream. Because if you do that, there's a chance if it catches, you can't go back, you're stuck, and then you really need that knife on your life jacket. So don't do that. But either way, if you know your river bottom pretty well and it's sandy and gravelly, which a lot of the rivers around you probably are, Brad.
And deep.
Then you're gonna want to drop that sucker and kind of be going slower to give yourself enough cast in those calm spots. Now the cool thing is you want to drop it. I mean, you can kind of pick the length that you want to drop it at, but I like to get it where it's kind of holding me. But if I just take my paddle and make a couple strokes, it frees and it just kind of keeps ticking the bottom and moving me. So now I'm just moving at a nice slow pace. And at some point, as I'm kind of casting and working my way down with it down and paddling with it down, just breaking it free every once in a while, and then it kind of moves me. If it stops me completely and I've made enough casts in that area, again, I just pick up the paddle, make a couple hard strokes, free myself, and then and I'm able to really hit that stuff fully instead of just blowing by it all. But it's cool that they can be used in conjunction because the power pole, it's not as much of a river tool. I mean, it can be, but the Echo Wizard really is. But if you want to use them both, you certainly can, because we got the height there where the chain will go underneath it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's awesome to, and I need to do that too. I've been thinking the second I watched the video and you guys started talking about the drag chain, I was like, I need to just play with the drag chain and see.
Yeah,
because
it's cool.
Me too.
I mean, and it's nice that you had the feature built in to where you could use a power pole, you could use the drag chain. I mean, it's
the other thing about the drag chain too is, and the reason why I have it positioned where I do, again, for safety to be able to cut the line, but also what you do is when you get hung up, the first thing you do, you can try paddling, but what I'd like doing first sometimes is just taking my hand that line, just pulling a little bit and freeing it from that obstruction. Just see now how hung am I? You know what I mean? Before
Yeah.
I paddle my whole kayak and jam it further into something, like, is it just going to pop free? So that's kind of why that is the way it is. But in those little bump outs you see right there above the S on Shoalie, on that top left photo, that's going to be for your Torqeedo, your Newport, your whatever stern motor you want, or if somebody wanted to put a rudder on this somehow, that'd be where those lines would come out.
Nice.
So we had with that,
Yeah, it's
had
awesome.
that thought of as well.
Oh, that's the one thing I forgot to mention about running a motor. Where are you running the lines to the foot pegs?
You're gonna run where the catchboard recess is right there. You're gonna run them through that wall. That
Okay.
you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That you just go straight into that wall, right there. Yep. And the other, I guess it'd be the other wall or one of those walls.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
one
other
closest to the seat.
Yeah, the other. Yeah, one closer to the seat.
Mhm.
Yeah, that side, because your tube, your wire would go straight in there. So yeah, that's where you run those. You kind of pick the kind of where you want it, but anywhere on that wall, and it's kind of nice and protected out of the way there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sweet.
for sure.
I'm pumped, man. I really want to put the Newport on it and check it out. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, that'd be so cool with the Newport for sure.
Oh yeah.
Man, that's. Oh man, we didn't even mention those the roto grip paddle holders,
yeah.
and they
Oh.
and
Yeah.
how they move out to the side, like right up in front of the Anchor Wizard thing. And we didn't even talk about the padlock paddle holders that go. We should show those too. That go keep your rods back at a low angle. We'll
Or
do
the
those two real
Boondocks.
quick.
Or
the Boondocks landing gear. Yeah, actually, yeah, the Boondocks landing gear is cool because it's just a recess. If you go to the tank well, you might see where that U-shaped recess is, but basically it's so your landing gear is just flush in there.
see if we
And
can see
one of the coolest hacks I saw from Scott Butcher today, we just found this out today. Yeah, maybe it's not showing up there. But what I found out from him today is that U-shape, well, it had dual purposes. One, it's also to it's for when you strap down your kayak in the truck or your trailer, it's at a good perfect spot where your straps are going to fit in that U, and they hold right there. You know what I mean? The other thing is, it's obviously for the landing gear first and foremost. If you want to use it, if not, it's just whatever. It's geometry there. It's a U-shape. It doesn't hurt you. But if you do, this is a big topic of discussion online. If you do want a black pack in your tank well, and you do want the landing gear, there's a few things you can do. You can make a choice. One, you could just say, I'm never going to use a black back, because once you put the landing gear there, that axle goes across, and you could now you have a little bit of room in front of it and a little bit behind it. The little bit of room you have now, it actually creates another wall, so you could stack planos vertically. You could put some bags there, like plano bags or something with soft plastics, and they're going to hold right there. You could put stuff on the other side, further to the stern of the whole thing. But it's kind of your choice. But you also could just simply put your black pack on top of, and use that gear track that's on the Groovy landing gear. It's a gear track to secure it easily to it's going to raise it about 4 inches, whatever the depth of that tank well is.
Yeah.
So you can still have it there, just raise it a little bit. And I know it's not going to raise the center of gravity on this for this stability on this boat, which you've been in it, Brad, so you can attest to. I think most of the big response I've seen from people is how stable this thing is. One of the first guys that tested it was 6'8", and he was like, man, I'm super stable in this thing. Big dude. So it's not going to matter if your black pack's up a little bit. So that's one thing. The other thing you could do is those, I think they secure actually with the T-bolts, the way they're done. Anyway, you can pull the axle out of the landing gear pretty easy. So you could remove that system and just not use it. I mean, for that trip, if then it's a trip you need it, you put it back on. So it's kind of still up to you. It's not like it's gonna, there's no way around that problem. You know what I mean? There's definitely lots of ways around it, but that's pretty cool, integrating that feature. And then the other one was they're talking about the
paddle holders.
The padlock paddle holders is what they're called. They're taco style. That's one of my favorite features. There they are, right there. I mean, that's the rod holster. I know I mentioned it. I mean, here's what's cool. I'm calling it the rod holster, but really I guess I had to say something, right? But it's really more of a net holster, and it still could be for a paddle. If you break your paddle down and let's say you're using a motor. So your paddle can go there, break it down, put 2 pieces in. But here's the cool thing. The compression of just the plastic. So forget the bungees even there. That's what I want. I want the quick draw for a paddle or the quick draw for a rod. Okay, if I miss a fish on a buzzbait, I want my Z-Man Streaks, my soft plastic bait, in the same spot on my left-hand side on my left hip every time. And as soon as I'm going to yank that buzzbait away, grab this rod, cast. There's no pulling it, turning around, pulling it up out of some complicated tube.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm being facetious a little bit. It's not that complicated. But when you're on a moving body of water or in waves and chop, and you're in a kayak, you got to turn your whole body around, and you're 40-something years old like I am, or you're 55 or 65 or 25. It's not that easy, dude. It's not.
Oh,
This right here is a piece of cake. It just pops out with the compression really nicely. So, but there's bungee there. If you need to secure it as well. But the coolest part is it lays it back at an insanely low angle. I mean, it's barely angled up at all, but you wanted to angle up a little bit, but it's angled. Yeah. It's laid back at a really nice low angle backwards. So you're not going to ever catch limbs and branches, or for your lake guys, your dock cables, things like that. You're going underneath dock walkways, trees close to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
It's keeping everything down and low. And then the last one we haven't touched on. But anyway, well, before I finish that, the net was probably my favorite part of that, is pulling the net out quickly. Because I'm not much of a net guy, but I kind of realize there's times where it's probably smart to use one. And I honestly have been reluctant to use them, because every time I turn around and fumble and try to look away from fighting the fish, which I feel like is almost more important. I feel like I
lose the fish
trying to get the net out, and then netting the fish. I literally
just did that on Wednesday. I had the net behind me, and I had pressure on the fish with a Ned rig, and it was a VFS setup. So you have to keep pressure the whole time, because it's a light casting rod. I turned around to get the net, and my mind just like, hey, there's no fish there. And I just looked back, and my rod just whoop, and the fish was gone. And ever since then, like, my net the rest of that day was like pinched between my knees as I kept fishing that spot, just so it was right there, so I could grab it. So that's awesome.
Well, unless you're Fluke Master and have that, I call him the net ninja, man, because he just has that whole motion down.
He does. Yep, he does for sure. But this one is just drop your hand by your hip and grab. I mean, and pull it up. That's it. I mean, you got to have the right. I got the Ego net, and it fits in there nicely with the compression perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, perfectly. So other nets, may or may not. I don't know. I haven't tested all of them, but yeah. So the last feature was the Rotogrip paddle holder on the in the middle there.
Yeah, let's see. There's one picture of it down here. It's not really a picture of it. It's kind of like an overhead picture. Where was it at?
I'm surprised you don't have a picture of that. I mean, I just saw it. You just passed it.
Did I?
I like it though, because
it's right there.
There's still room to stand up right there and still have room to take a picture of your fish on the catch board.
That's true. Yep. So in that Rotogrip there, it comes with it. It's a Yak Attack Rotogrip paddle holder, or whatever holder you want it to be. Again, it's the same thing, rod butt, paddle. Mm-hmm. But the coolest part about that is I wanted to design, again, if there's a recess in the side of the boat, so that, I mean, when you run your hand across this boat, if you put a fish finder in the cubby and an anchor whizzer where it's supposed to go and it's recessed, where only the handle's sticking up, and this Rotogrip's recessed, and the landing gear, like, everything is just, my boats, I just don't want them. And I feel like it's not just me. I feel like this is the way to be more efficient and productive kayak fishing. This is the way you should be if you're going to be a river angler, especially. Mm-hmm. You should have things seamless, and you don't want your kayak looking like that old board game Mousetrap, right? Where just stuff's like freaking everywhere. And I'm not knocking the guys that have setups like that, but I will have to just refer to, again, if you don't believe me, I mean, look at every bass boat out there, Bassmaster Elite Series, Major League Fishing. No one has a crate with rods sticking up vertical right behind them on their deck of their bass boat, because they're trying to get the proper ergonomics to cast, which is a big wide looping motion for a bait caster. And you can't do that with rods sticking up, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so many reasons, like, they don't have that there. So if there's a way to not do that on a kayak, to be able to have those big casting motions to properly throw. I mean, look at KVD throwing a freaking 6XD or whatever, dude. That thing he's helicoptering that thing, and there's 5 feet of line out, and it's just, he can cast so much further that way. Anyway, there's features on this boat. It can't really help you I can't tell you where to go find fish and where to cast and all that stuff, but I'm telling you, if you pay attention to the hook sharpener and you use that, and because your hooks they're microscopically bent over when you get hung on rocks and logs and stuff, they get bent over if you sharpen your hooks, because that's there, or you retie a little bit more often because the line cutters is there, or You know, see what I'm saying? Like all these features, even the whole design and the stability, everything we've done on it, it's slowly, I think, helping you. You know, the rod laying back real low. I mean, if the whole design isn't maneuverable and you hit a log and you flip over and you lose your stuff, there's no telling how many casts you've lost in that day, how much time. Again, if you're just fun fishing or tournament fishing, you've lost a lot of casts and a lot of money and gear. So the fact that we made that hole properly for maneuvering in rivers, it's gonna help you catch more fish. You don't understand that it might because everything's a game of inches, you know, not just the fish, but everything. You could miss that log by an inch that would have caused you to flip over, getting caught underneath it and flipping over whatever strainer or something. So all of the features are kind of designed to be seamlessly integrated into the boat, and that's where that rotor grip is. And if you slide it out inward, you can now turn it parallel with the boat. And I've actually used my net there a lot lately, thinking, man, this might even be a better spot for the net. I've used it with rods. I've used it for basically everything right there, my paddle. So it's just insane that there's like not that much on this boat, but there is so much on it. It's just kind of weird dichotomy, but it's pretty cool having that there. And it's very silencing, that whole rotor grip, you know, it's which I love about it.
Well, cool, cool, man. I know this has been a long episode, but this kayak deserves it. So,
all day.
Thanks, guys.
Is there something we missed or anything?
Man, I can't. Other than people have said that there's no skid plate, they wish they'd see a removable skid plate. The only thing I'll say about that is that we use the best plastic in the industry, been tested, proven, like test studies on this stuff, and we molded the stern portion a little bit thicker right there. And what I'll say is that one of my first kayaks was an ocean kayak caper. It was super lightweight, 11 foot, around 11 foot, a little over maybe. I used that thing for years and years and just drug it and beat it up in rivers. And I finally did wear a hole in a part of the keel there, very, very stern keel. But it took me a long dang time. And this thing was like 40 something pounds, maybe 50 something. They're molded light and thin. They were made for open water, ocean, not rivers. So they're molded a lot lighter and thinner. And we've molded this thing thick. We've put extra plastic back there. I don't think anyone's wearing through that thing probably ever, if not 20 or 30 years. I don't think anything's, and now we don't have inserts, which is something that has to be removed, replaced, and could potentially fail there as well. We found the inserts, especially, under the water inserts. That's a scary proposition, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to have to put stuff in the boats if we don't have to. So we chose not to, because I think based on technology, from when I first started, designing boats with Jackson, whatever that was, like 10 years ago, the technology's changed. The plastic's better, rotomolding's better, getting a lot more plastic to hold in that spot is better. But finally, even our education's better. You're never supposed to drag your kayak and let that at that one point just dig, because it's very inefficient and it's hard to drag it. It's grinding into the ground or rocks, but but anyway, that's the main thing. It's just harder. So if you use that strap properly, with the length of that 7 foot, or just make it a big loop and just walk with that strap, just go like you're offensive lineman doing drills in training camp, just pull the sleds. When it lays flat on the ground without a person in it, dude, they slide like nothing.
Yeah.
Like nothing's there, hardly at all. But if you're in it, or if you're pulling it up and you lift it up and you're dragging from one point, digging into the ground, that's tough. So don't do that. And that thing's going to last you a long time. So anyway, the last thing we didn't touch on was the donations to the Shoal Bass and the habitat. So that's the main thing. If you open that front tank well, you'll see the scientific name Cataractae is embossed into that front tank well. That was sort of our love letter to the Shoal Bass. That's their scientific name, Micropterus cataractae. You'll see a video here of Dr. Salmons, who's been on my podcast quite a bit, biologist from like Auburn University. He's done a lot of work with me in the past for Shoal Bass, and worked with the state of Georgia. And that's Gordon right there on the right. You'll see in the cowboy hat, and Gordon Rogers. He's the head of the Flint RiverKeeper, and that's who we're donating the money to this year. And part of the proceeds of every Shoalie kayak will go to the Flint RiverKeeper this year, and we want to give them a
That's
big
cool.
check at the end of the year. And we just started making these right now. We didn't have all winter to build up a stock, so it won't be as big of a check as I want to give them maybe next year or whatever. But it's pretty cool to be able to give them some money and for sure to go back to helping protect, like it says, protect the places we paddle and fish, and specifically this shoal bass, which we all call the shoalie. So
yeah,
pretty cool. So
Very cool, man.
yeah,
it's awesome.
Well, Matt, you got anything else to add, dude?
I don't, man. My mind is officially blown because I watched the walkthrough video and we went through like 18 things that weren't even on the walkthrough video.
I
So
know.
like one thing,
Yeah.
I'm super pumped for your video to come out so everyone can see it and get an in-depth view of this kayak. 2, thanks for coming on, man, and talking about it. And 3, I love that, the Flint RiverKeeper project, you guys are giving back to that, because I think a lot of times, especially for a lot of kayak fishermen who get in the tournament scene real heavy, they kind of just focus on the tournament scene and they just focus on the competition aspect, which is
Right.
fine. But you have to remember at the end of the day, if we don't take care of the environment that we're fishing in to enjoy fishing competitively, there will be no fishing competitively because there will be no fishing because the environment's going to be gone. So I think that's an awesome thing you guys are doing.
right
Very
on.
cool.
I love it,
Well,
man. Yeah,
Drew-
I was just gonna say, I didn't know if you mentioned this too. That also kind of goes into the Made in the USA thing, the standards and the character of the people at Crescent, and we have very high standards on quality, and keeping and sourcing everything in the U.S. So right there in Carrollton, Georgia, 60 miles away is where we shot the whole promo video, the 3-minute one that you guys saw, so the fall line,
Mhm.
and so it just made a lot of sense to kind of like tie that in and hopefully set a trend in the industry in the outdoor industry, the fishing industry, really to, in the kayaking world, I guess, giving back in some form or fashion. So hopefully that just starts this trend, I think, for more folks.
Definitely.
Love it.
Well, man, it's been a pleasure. Congratulations on the release. Much success in the future.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys for having me on. This was a lot of fun to be able to kind of like talk about it and just get into the details. And I'm sick and my voice is about to go, but man, I could sit here and still go another several hours with you guys, because it's just so much fun to not just about the boat, just talk fishing. We kind of cover the boat and ad nauseum here, but I think that's what people want for this podcast that are interested in the Shoalie. What you want, every bit of info you can. And somebody right now is at a gym or mowing a lawn or driving, cross country, and this is exactly what they needed to hear. So hopefully that if you can't make a decision now based on all this, then I don't think you'll ever be able to decide. So
yeah. We've helped give you all the tools to make the decision. Now just
go buy one.
Go test one. Yeah, go find your dealer.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Don't even
thanks
test it,
again.
just go buy it.
Yeah, just go. It's definitely getting some pretty good rave reviews. It's cool to see that, man. It's pretty awesome. So it's a very sentimental for me when I see that. So it's cool.
Oh, I can imagine, man. Yeah. I can imagine. It's probably been a long road.
It's been a long road, man. And this exhaustion and the throat and everything going is just, that's a good problem to have right now. But thank you guys so much, and can't wait to get back on again one of these days to talk about another kayak sometime.
All right,
there we go. Look forward to it.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I know it's been long, but it's been a good one. So we will see you guys next week.
Later.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode here on Paddle and Fin. Be sure to drop a 5-star rating, a thumbs up, or smash that subscribe button on any platform you're listening in on. Be sure to check us out on Waypoint TV, waypointtv.com. Make sure you sign up for the Fantasy Kayak Fishing League at paddleandfin.com/fantasy. You could support this show through Patreon, patreon.com/paddleandfin. Don't forget to check out the website, paddleandfin.com. Catch us on YouTube. If you got a question, comment, or want to see a future guest on the show, be sure to email us at paddleandfin@gmail.com. Shout out to our show supporters, Yak Gadget. You can check out all the fine kayak accessories at yakgadget.com. Pelican Professional. For all your cases, coolers, and lighting needs, go to pelican.com. Rocktown Adventures, your Midwest premier paddle sports destination. Go to rocktownadventures.com. Eastport Marina, the beautiful destination on Dale Hollow Lake. If you're looking for lodging, kayaks, kayak accessories, or anything fishing related, on the beautiful Dale Hollow Lake, go to eastport.info. And Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com and fill your tackle boxes today.